1946. You're sitting comfortably on your living room sofa, awaiting the newest Superman radio episode. Halfway through the episode, your hero encounters a new villain, a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Throughout the episode, they divulge secrets, codes, passwords that the Klan uses. Little do you know, everything you just learned in this episode is entirely true. Stetson Kennedy infiltrated the KKK in the 1940s, learned their secrets, and leaked them to the writers of Superman. Turns out the Klan functioned a lot like a villainous gang from a comic book. The show turned kids against their parents as they dressed up in Klan and Superman costumes and fought one another. They made a mockery of the Klan. People started resigning. The group lost its ferocity. It was no more. And as entertaining as that story is, it is a prime example of why I'm here today. Although Kenny was able to geniusly dismantle a violently racist group by the means of a television radio show, it was only because he thoroughly understood the world around him. He knew about the KKK, their history, why they were there, what they were meant to accomplish. He also knew about the advancements of radio, how widespread it had become. He understood his actions before he even took them. This is precisely what we must teach the youth of today to accomplish, to make the change in the world because they understand the world. History class. It was made for this very reason. Because as much as we hate learning about the old and the dead guys, it's necessary for us to be able to advance into the future. As Horace Mann said, citizens cannot maintain both ignorance and freedom. Mann was actually the person to introduce public schooling into America. He thought it was ridiculous that you'd have to pay to learn about your own history, and I'd have to agree. So, the American public school system was created, and it was a way for people across the country to learn about their country, their history, and established what everyone would consider common knowledge. Thus, the public school system emerged in the 1830s. Well, life didn't stop in the 1830s. As new scientific and mathematical advancements occurred, we updated what we taught in school. We traded old theories for new, provable ones. Same goes for English. Just this year, I traded out MLA 8 citations with MLA 9 citations, because there's, a huge difference. History, however, does not undergo such change. There is no part of history that you can erase simply because time moved on. The content doesn't change as history progresses and as more things happen. It just increases. And that means if we start with Columbus coming to America, that's at least 530 years of American history we try to squeeze in to a 160-day school year. And so, to supplement for this timeline, we pick out different pieces and places and people of history that we think accurately describe some period of time. And it goes on like this, picking general pieces of history to pass down from generation to a generation, establishing that common knowledge, and just watering down stories as you tell them. Our ancestors become two-dimensional figures that either fight for a common good or a common bad. And there's no in between. There's no complexities. They're not human anymore. They become less of a person and more just fictionally historic characters. They lose that humanity and become almost impossible to relate to, which is, you can imagine, why it becomes very difficult to instill that passion and that hunger for change in students when no one like them ever did anything in history worth noting. That's because the people we learn about in history are not actually the people we learn about in history. Our ancestors, although great and almighty in their achievements, were not meant to be idolized and placed on pedestals. They were meant to be learned from. And I believe as 21st century citizens, we grossly underestimate how closely related our situations are to those of the past. We have the ability to look at their decisions, their outcomes, what resulted from the things that they did, and then we have the ability to make better decisions. This is how change occurs, by learning and doing differently. Unfortunately, history class does not do this nearly as well as we need it to. Education system takes on a passive stance when it comes to topics such as violence, war, slavery, those things that are considered sensitive. For instance, you almost certainly do not know the 12, there's probably more than 12, but the 12 presidents of the United States who had slaves. Why? Because you learned about their accomplishments before you learned about anything else. You almost certainly don't know that George Washington only had a grade school education, because how dare we disrespect the first president of the United States? You almost certainly don't know that the Emancipation Proclamation didn't actually intend to free slaves more so than it did to teach the Confederacy a lesson. Feel free to do your own research after today. After all, I'm not obligated to tell you the truth, but no one else is either, no matter what position they're in. School curriculums ensure that children's innocence is protected before their knowledge is correct. Does that make you uncomfortable? It should. Being uncomfortable with your current situation, with the past, that's the only way we make progress. It's the only way we make change. The quote goes something like this: "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." Make a point to learn more about your history than you're taught. Make a point to be uncomfortable, to research, to criticize, to question. Nothing is set in stone until you decide it is. Learning about a few major figures throughout history that started a revolution, that inspired change, they don't really do a good job. It minimizes people's belief in what they can do to impact society as an individual. History was made by the thousands, not the one. Your textbooks will give heroes and give titles. It will build pedestals to worship all-powerful military leaders on. But it is your duty as a student, as a citizen, as a human being, to be able to remove these people from their altars and see them for what they are: people, like us. Look at the big picture. There's no leader without an army, and there's no teacher without a class. While it is important to remember who you are, it is even more important to remember where you are and what you can do in your current position. You may not be granted that megaphone or a pedestal. That does not mean you are any less capable. You are resilient. You make change by learning and understanding the world around you in a different way than you are taught to understand. Remember the thousands of African Americans that disrupted the nation during the Montgomery bus boycott. The defiant female activists during the women's suffrage movement. And the millions, the countless number of crucial but nameless characters throughout history that made change simply by understanding the world in a different way than they were taught to. This is your history. Learn it.